Most CGI artists are underpaid. If you work in motion graphics, animation, VFX, or any of the media industries, you've probably experienced this. While other people of the same level are often earning double or sometimes more for doing basically the same job. And it's not because they're better in any way, it's just because they understand this. Being a good artist doesn't automatically mean making a bunch of money. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the fastest ways I've found of exploding your income by working smarter, not harder. So today we're going to be looking at how to double your income in VFX. So first things first, let's see how we got in this position in the first place. Most of the time, us artists, we have a passion that we want to pursue or a job in mind that we want to relentlessly go after. So we go to university or we build our portfolios at home and we apply for jobs doing the thing that we love doing. With enough persistence and with enough email rejections, we eventually get the job that we want. We had a successful interview, we got the contract, we look at the salary, and it's not quite what we want.
Is that it?
But it's good enough, right? We've got the job that we want and we're successful. We finish our first few steps in the industry and it comes to the end of the first month, we receive our first paycheck and we're happy, right? It's the first amount of money that we've ever been paid to do something that we enjoy doing. And there's not really anything we can complain about. Yeah, we're not millionaires, but at the end of the day, not really that important. We're getting paid to do what we love, and we're just starting out in the industry, so everything's going great. Then it gets to about a year in. At this point, we're starting to really understand how things work, we feel a little bit more comfortable where we are, but we're still loving it, and there's still no complaints. At this point, the studio has a conversation with us, they increase our salary a tiny bit, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 per year, and we feel a little bit happier about that. So let's say we started on $25,000, which is about minimum wage really, and now we're on $27,000. We're pretty happy about that little bump, and we go another year. So another year rolls by, we're a little bit more confident, a little bit more experienced, and the company brings us in for that same conversation again. And they hit us with the same number, another 2,000. Now we're at 29, we're almost at 30, so I guess we can be happy about that, right? Until the year after, and then the same conversation comes up, and we get to 31, but now we're a couple years in, and our income isn't really great. This is the point where we normally start questioning whether or not we're earning enough. We're 3 or 4 years in, we're still not making a great living, but we feel like we've got a bit of experience now, so shouldn't that be reflected in how much we're paid? I found that this is a critical stage of anybody's career. At this point, you're a few years in, you've got the experience, you know what you're doing, you're not being paid enough, and it's up to you to decide what to do from here. You can either stay where it's comfortable, or you can start thinking about other options. And this is kind of where the workplace trap lives. Around this time, a lot of people are not confident enough yet to go and try something new because this is all they've ever known. So they basically get trapped in this studio. If you chose to stay in the same place for a salary that you're not really happy with, this is where you've just been tricked like so many other people. You get caught up in the loyalty or the fear of the unknown or the promise of something better on the horizon. And at this point, you're basically trapped. Unfortunately, a lot of people get caught in this trap because it's so easy to fall into. You stay in the same place for years and years and years, your salary goes up really slowly, it's basically the first place you've ever worked, so you have no experience of what it's like anywhere else, and you don't have the confidence to go anywhere else because you're worried that you're not good enough. If this sounds like your situation, the chances are you are being underpaid. And it's the way that the infrastructure is set up to get you in this position. So what they've got in you is an artist with 4, maybe 5 years experience, so basically a senior, at a salary that is way lower than a senior should be getting. At this point, you might be on close to 40, when you should be on almost double that. I want to stress at this point that this video is super subjective. If you're happy with your situation, and you've been at the same studio for 10 years, but you're just not happy with your salary, but at the same time you don't want to move, then this video isn't really for you. I'm speaking more to the people whose objective is to get as much money as possible while working in the industry that they love. This brings me on to my next point, which is what should we have done instead of staying in the same place forever and hoping they would just randomly increase our salary a bunch? Well, the method that I found most successful is working in the studio until you've got enough experience to then branch out somewhere else. We'll go through a little bit about both of them. My personal preference is the freelance method, but let's talk about the contract one first. Most people don't like moving studios because they feel some kind of loyalty towards that studio, which is fair enough. So the very first studio that hired you took a chance on you and you feel like you owe it to them to stick around. They taught you most of what you know, all of your friends are there, so it's quite a hard place to turn your back on. And most people kind of end up staying in the same place because of that. There's also the fear of the unknown. So you'd be moving to somewhere where you didn't know anyone, you don't understand the pipeline, you don't really know too much about the company, and it's quite scary. And these are the two most common reasons that people stay in the same underpaid job for years on end. But if you can just overcome those two things, your career could potentially explode way faster than just staying in the same place forever. So how do you put this into practice? Well, ideally you'd find a studio that does the same thing that you love in a location that works for you, and you apply for a job there. You'd still be working the main job that you had before, so you're not in any rush to quit. You just send out a bunch of applications to studios that do the same thing, and eventually you'll get an interview and a chance to discuss your salary. Let's just say, for example's sake, that at the first studio, after about 3 or 4 years, you were making around $35,000, and you've successfully gone to an interview at another studio for a mid-level job doing the same thing that you do. It was a successful interview, and it gets to the point where you talk about your salary. Well, if you understand the numbers and you understand the industry, then hopefully you would ask for something that suits your experience a bit better. So let's say, for example, £50,000. There's a very good chance that this studio who's hiring somebody with experience understand that it's not going to come super cheap, so they probably will give you what you're worth. But they may negotiate something slightly lower, so let's say for argument's sake they offered you 45. You might feel really guilty, but you leave the first job, you go to this job, and you start there on 45 as a mid-level artist. You've just increased your salary £10,000 just by changing studio. That was easy, and this applies at every level. Let's say the poor guy who stayed at the same place for 8 to 9 years and made it all the way up to 50,000 could then get a job at another studio, probably on 75 plus. That guy just increased his salary £25,000. You just increased by a whole junior person. And the best part is, if you have no morals whatsoever, you can just keep changing studios every 2 years and doing the same thing over and over again. And for you people who have strong morals, try and remember that most of these studios, given half a chance to hire somebody cheaper than you, probably would let you go. Studios are very quick to talk about being morally right, but when given the opportunity to do the right thing, they don't really care that much.
Oops. Welcome aboard. Get settled in.
If they can save money, they're gonna save money. And that's an example of a quick way that you can increase your salary doing things the contracted way. But my personal favorite way is going freelance. So how do we put that into practice? About 3 or 4 years into your career, you could potentially go freelance, set yourself up as a sole trader or a company, and start selling your services in a more business manner. Essentially, you're just selling your time on a per project basis. So you'd start operating with a day rate, charging people by the day, and then getting contracts that are as long as the companies might need you. So it could be a week, a month, 6 months. So what are the benefits of doing things this way? This is actually exactly what I teach in my mentorship program. So I take people who are employees and I transition them into freelance. So if you think that you're in this position, then I may be able to potentially help you personally. I've got an 8-week course where I show you how to set up your company or your sole trader status, how to find work, and then how to successfully complete that work in a freelance manner. And I basically guide you through this whole process. So if that's something you're interested in, the link's in the description. So let's say you've set up your freelance status and you found your first gig. You're now charging by the day, you've hopefully got your day rate right. Let's assume you started on $250 a day. You finish a month-long contract at a studio that you've never worked at before, and then another studio offers you a job and you work there for a month too. Now, the benefit of freelancing is that every time you finish a contract and you start a new relationship with a new studio, you basically have the opportunity of telling them your rate again. And your rate is basically whatever you set it to be. So you can increase your day rate in small increments and do it pretty quickly with every new contract as you get a bit more experience. So month 1 started at $250 a day, month 2 could be $260, month 3 could be $270, and so on, until you start getting to the point where you're starting to cap out. And let's say that's around $300. At this point you might have to slow down because you can't just keep increasing every single month, but you get the idea of how quickly you can potentially progress if you were freelance. And every year you could increase it maybe twice. Personally, I do it about once or twice a year. And the other benefit of going freelance is that you're working in loads of different places. So you're getting lots of experience and exposure to working in different ways with different people. Also, if at any point you decide that you've had enough, or you find a studio that you really enjoy working at and they have a permanent job, you can still take it. Nothing's stopping you from going back to contracted work, and nothing's stopping you from taking a permanent job. So in my opinion, it's win-win. And after a couple of years, if you're a freelancer charging in the high 300s per day and somebody wants you for a permanent job, chances are they're going to pay you a lot for it. So let's say after you've got about 7 or 8 years experience, you might take a senior contract on $80,000 per year. versus had you have stayed at that first place for 7 or 8 years, you'd probably be looking around the 50,000 mark. So you can see there's quite a big discrepancy between the two, and moving around is definitely the fastest way to boost your income. If you've experienced other ways of increasing your salary, or you feel trapped in any way, feel free to leave a comment and we can start a conversation. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the video if you found it interesting, and I'll see you on the next one.